Hey everybody, welcome to Twice as Lively with Ken Heckenlively. This is the first time I am going live, so I'm expecting to do many things wrong. So I hope you will just go with it and we'll have as good of a time as possible. So, topic number one: if a tree falls in the forest and it doesn't kill you, is it still attempted murder? So you might want me to explain that to you a little bit, and I'm happy to do it. So this last weekend was my father-in-law's 90th birthday party with a celebration with my in-laws. Now, my lovely wife has a number of siblings, so we all met up in the Napa Valley at this lovely location. And it's actually my grandparents' home up there, which we've kept in the family. And we had just a delightful time. I just have to say, my wife has a lovely family, a number of siblings. Everybody seems to get along. And so we just had a great time with it. So, as everything was finishing up, good old Kent, who loves animals, has a trail cam, which is kind of out in the woods, but not that far away. So I was taking all of the leftover food and I was thinking what a great thing to put it in front of the trail cam. And, this is going to be great. I'm, maybe going to get some deer to show up, raccoons, maybe a skunk. There's a bunch of coyotes around. I put some meat out there. I'm thinking maybe I'd attract a bobcat or two. So, I'm just having a good time with that. And so I put all that out there. And then I'm walking away from the trail cam and I hear this big whooshing. There was a heavy winds this last weekend. And so I'm hearing that and I'm a little bit nervous, right? And so then I hear this crack, and I know what that means. What that means is that a large tree has just broken its trunk and is now plummeting to earth. And because I heard the whooshing very close to me, and that crack was really loud, I did not turn around to look what was coming at me because I knew something was coming at me. So, what I did was I just started running. And it's a good thing that I did because that tree crashed down. It was about a 50-foot tree. It crashed down maybe 5 feet away from me. So, if I had simply stood there, part of the tree would have hit me. And so, there's something peculiar that happens to you when you escape serious injury or death. And the bad things that happen just don't bother you as much as they might have otherwise. And so that's kind of the frame of mind I've been in for the past week since I cheated injury or death. Now, being the kind of curious guy that I am, I thought, huh, how dangerous are falling trees? Because you hear about that. Oh, so and so got injured by a falling tree. So and so died in a falling tree. And I was just wondering to myself, how many people get hurt or killed by falling trees? So I go and I research it and I do a little internet search, and it appears that about 150 to 200 people a year are injured by falling trees in the United States. So I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe I was one of 150 or 200 people who might have been injured. And then I said, okay, how many people are killed by falling trees? Well, ranges from about 30 to 50. So one quarter of those people who have a tree fall on them are killed by it. So I'm like, okay, I got it. I got it. So I did just escape something that is relatively unusual to happen. And so for the rest of the time I was up there, I was like, let me go into the forest because the chances of another tree falling on me are pretty low. So, I just want you to think about that as, and, something that my wife and I talk about often, which is, there are the things that you worry about, and then there are the things that actually happen. One of the stories that my wife and I often tell each other is my wife has recently become a yoga instructor. Okay. And so, there's all the things that you worry about. Is the room too hot? Is everybody having a good time? Does anybody look like they're going to get sick or not? But a couple months ago, my wife was scheduled to teach a class. And then for a number of reasons, she had to have a substitute teacher come in. And so that person took the class. And as the class was beginning, somebody drove their car accidentally through the front of the yoga studio, and the yoga teacher was injured. Now, not seriously, she was hospitalized for a little bit of time, but she's recovered. But it was kind of that same sort of thing, which is what is the likelihood that you are going to be hit by a car while teaching a yoga class? And it strikes me that's a lot like life. You know, there are the things you worry about, and then there are things that actually happen. So I agree. My wife is the worrier in the family. I'm like, well, okay, I understand that's true, but it's not likely to be a real big thing. So maybe just live your life, taking care of the dangers that you can understand, but realize that the biggest things that happen are probably going to be things that you never saw coming. That can be good things and it can be bad things. So I just like to always have that perspective. Okay, so that's my opening story. That if a tree falls in the forest and it doesn't kill you, is that still attempted murder? I'm not quite sure about that, but that's a question I leave for you. Okay, so what I like to do in my programs is I like to talk about cultural issues and artistic issues. So this last weekend, I was like, okay, I like to go to the movies on the weekends. What is out there? What am I going to go see? And so, of course, I pick the Star Wars movie, The Mandalorian, and Grogu. And I went into it with a little bit of trepidation because I saw that the critics were around 60%, but the audience was around the high 80s. So I thought, oh, okay, I generally tend to go with the audience rather than the critics. Although I'm really interested in what the critics have to say, and I just have to say, I think that they did a pretty good Star Wars movie. Is it something that I'm likely to remember years and years from now? No. It's kind of a fun story with a Mandalorian and Grogu, and it involves the Huts. Okay, Jabba the Hutt and his family and everything. And okay, the Huts are basically big slugs, and they're not that exciting, but it was a decent story. And I have to say that there are predictions that this is going to be the lowest grossing Star Wars movie. Okay, and so this is why you listen to me, because I make predictions and then I check in with you to see if they came true. I think that The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be one of the big successes of the summer. Not because it's fantastic, but it's pretty good. It was entertaining. There were a bunch of callbacks to earlier Star Wars movies. And I just generally thought it's a good, fun movie. There's nothing objectionable about it. I think you're going to really enjoy it. So, okay, let me say this. Your kids are probably going to really enjoy it. And there isn't that much that's annoying in it. Um, it may not be the most creative Star Wars, but it's pretty good. So, if you're wondering about taking your kids to go see a Star Wars movie because you loved it so much, go ahead and do it. Not a problem. Okay. So, what other things can I talk about? So, I like to sometimes do recommendations, and my book club recently read a book called The Frozen River, and it takes place shortly after the American Revolution, and there's a murder. A man is found in the frozen river. Okay, and I have to say, one of my favorite books, probably of the past year. Now, why is it one of my favorite books? Because it doesn't necessarily seem to have the elements that I would normally like in a book. Um, I have talked a lot about um, modern fiction having problems. Specifically, I feel like a lot of modern fiction doesn't appeal to men because men are not depicted in their complexity. And I was a English and political science major, and so I love my literature. I love my culture, and the author did a really good job. I was impressed with the complexity of the male characters in the story. There were definite male villains, but there are also good guys, the way that I know guys are good. And I think that good literature is provocative. It's subversive in some ways. And so, not to spoil it too much for you, uh, but there are some really bad guys in it. And they evade justice under the law. And there, there are men who are just as upset about these elite men who evade justice as the women. And they take action, which is consistent with what I know about good men. And so the story of a midwife who's telling the story, who's based on a historical character, really good. The complexities of post revolutionary life are shown in this. And I have to say, really, really good job. So please, if you are a fan of fiction, The Frozen River is wonderful. It's great for a book club group. So really, The Frozen River has some of my highest praise. And so I don't really usually compliment modern literature because I think they usually do a terrible job with men. But I have to say, Frozen River did a great job. Okay, so next topic, living in California. Now, just to let you know, I'm a native Californian. I love my California style. I love my California philosophy. For all of my life, California has been the place of innovation. Unfortunately, in the past decade or so, it's kind of become a nanny state. And I don't like that. And they're the big things, but they're the little things. Here's one of the little things. If you live in California, you don't like the showers. Okay? It's a little annoyance, I know. But my wife and I went away to a bed and breakfast recently, and beautiful, beautiful place. Loved it. But you turn the shower on and it's drip, drip, drip. I'm like, come on. I want high pressure when I'm taking a shower. Is that too much to ask? I don't want to smell. I want to be my best self. I want to be able to lather up and get everything off of me. But this is California. So you have to stand below the shower that gives you a light rainfall. And you're like, dang it, did I get all the soap off? Do I smell good? So, so please, please, I know we've got a governor's race coming up, and I'm not telling you who to vote for in the race, but I'm saying, please, if you live in California, vote for a governor who will restore water pressure for our showers. Now, you might say, well, Kent, I understand that. But you're in California and, they're saving that water for the fires. Well, then why is the state still burning down? Why do we have the Pacific Palisades fire? Um, my grandfather parents' property in the Napa Valley, 3 years ago, burned to the ground. Okay, I walked out on it. The land was like the surface of the moon, a white powder. I've never seen wildfires like that. Okay, so I know they're telling you that the reason why we have crummy water flow is because we're saving it for the fires. But why is the state still burning down? I think that there's another problem, maybe not cleaning out the forests. Has anybody thought about that? Because we made the stupid decision that we're, just going to let all the wood rot in the forests. Well, that's fuel for fires, okay? And actually, if you go back to the indigenous practices, they would have controlled burns. Supposedly, we have forgotten how to do that. We need to manage our forests much better, and then we won't have these big fires, and we can have normal pressure showers. Please, if there's anybody who's running for governor in the state of California who wants a winning issue, say that if elected, you are going to restore normal pressure to the California showers. I know that's a winning strategy. Okay, so I think I got to talk about something that has come up, and unfortunately, I think I may have just panicked the globe. Okay, it was not my intention to panic the globe. Okay, just letting you know. So, my new book, my new-ish book, Catastrophic Disclosure, The Deep State, Aliens, and the Truth. All right, I went on a podcast, and the podcaster had said, "Do you have anything new?" Because this book published 6 months ago. Okay, and you might think that in this world where everybody's talking about UFOs, a book like this would be a huge bestseller. But when this came out in November, book sales were kind of disappointing. I think I'm at 16 Amazon reviews. Okay, so the book came out 6 months ago, and book sales sucked. So, was I just going to write this book off? No, because I think I did a great job on it. I spent probably 2.5 years on it, working with my co-author, Michael Mazzola. And so I developed a lot of sources during the course of writing that book, many of whom I'm still in contact with. And so as we were getting ready to do this podcast, what I had said to my publisher, when they talked about disappointing book sales, is I said, hey, here's a thought. This new Spielberg movie is coming out called Disclosure Day. And, the book is called Catastrophic Disclosure. So, how about if I pay my publicist, more money to do another round so we can link the book to the Spielberg movie and, maybe get some decent book sales? Well, I may have overshot the mark a little bit, um, because at what happened with the podcaster is he said, Ken, do you have any good hooks? And so I'm racking my brain and I'm thinking like, okay, what might be a good hook for this book? And I thought to myself, well, in the end of the book, one of the experts who I'd interviewed, Dr. Stephen Greer, had confirmed a document that I had received, which was a memorandum to Trump put together by Dr. Stephen Greer about what genuine disclosure might look like. Now, one of my sources had contacted me recently because I continue to write books. I'm continuing to work on the UFO issue in one of the books that I'm working on. And the source had told me that the White House was very close to putting together a memo or executive order on disclosure, which would have three very significant parts to it. Part one is that any of the scientists or technicians, engineers, or employees who had worked on these so-called special access programs, which may have been involved with alien tech, uh, could consider their non-disclosure agreements, their NDAs, null and void. That's been a huge thing that has been talked about in the news. So I thought, okay, that's big. The second part that I was told about is that um, there is the question of whether crimes may have been committed in these programs. Now, I can't tell you what sort of crimes might have been committed. All I can tell you is what people have told me may have happened, which is not only lying to the American public, maybe lying in congressional hearings, but harassment of whistleblowers, injuries to whistleblowers, murders of whistleblowers. You've also heard Matt Gaetz talk about being briefed on hybridization programs. You have heard allegations that some people may have been kidnapped to work in these programs. I have no idea whether any of that is true. It is a consistent story that I've heard, and so that's why I present those in my book. Um, so part of this executive order is that there's supposed to be a amnesty program in this executive order. Now, it won't be a blanket amnesty, probably something much more like what happened in South Africa after apartheid, which was if you had participated in crimes as part of the apartheid program, you could apply for amnesty. But what you had to do was you had to detail exactly what you had done. So if you had participated in torture, kidnapping, murder, you had to fully disclose what you did because, hey, people need the truth, right? So that is part of as I understand it, as my source told me, that's part of the um, uh, the the executive order, the memo, whatever you want to call it. Um, the third thing, which was really important, is that, and this is something that I've heard time and time again from my congressional sources, is uh, Congress members are really upset that it seems like the bureaucracies have the power to ignore Congress. So, what I've been told many times is that what seems to happen is that Congress will know the questions to ask. They will ask them of the agencies, and then the agencies respond by sending somebody who knows nothing about the issue. Um, then they'll promise, oh, I'll get back to you about that. And they never do. They basically wait you out. Or what these people from the agencies will do is they will say, you're not allowed to know that information. And this makes the Congress people really angry, because as they've told me many times, under Article 1 of the Constitution, Congress gets to know what money is being spent on. So if allegedly tens, hundreds, trillions of dollars have been spent on these secret programs, well, you got to tell Congress. Now, maybe you just tell some people, but Congress is supposed to be us, the people. And we, the people, are supposed to be in charge, not the bureaucracies. So the third part of this supposed order, which is coming, is that there is a period of time during which these documents need to be turned over to an appropriate government agency, probably the Director of National Intelligence, I would assume, since that's the top of the organizational chart. And if those documents are not turned over, then there may be disciplinary actions against individuals who had control of those documents who did not turn them over. There may be civil penalties against them, and there may be criminal penalties. Now, again, this is a congressional source, but from me to you, it's somebody I trust a great deal. So this is what has been conveyed to me. And so, so much is going on in the UFO space, but I am very aware that it seems like this is really big news to a lot of people. And so, hey, I can't tell you if it's true. I can tell you my source is really good. I can tell you that my source really believes it. And if it is true, it is a big deal. So it was kind of funny because I've been publishing books since 2013. It seems like every 3 or 4 years I end up in some big controversy. But most of the time, my word gets ignored, even if it gets critical praise from top people. So take from that what you will. It is not my intention to panic the world or to unduly excite the world, but I stand by what I said. I am Catastrophic Disclosure is my 20th book, so you can look at my body of work and decide whether you believe it's good or not. But by no stretch of the imagination am I Johnny come lately to this. I've been on the scene for quite a while. I had some actually nice conversations with some individuals who post a lot more than I do on social media. And I had great conversations with them. And I said, okay, here's who I am. You're asking who I am. And, here's my website, Heckenlivelybooks.com. You can get a feel for me, but I haven't done a lot of podcasting. I've done a bunch of interviews. Maybe you can find that. Not so much on YouTube, a lot on Rumble. So I'm in the next stages. You can see I'm not now in my own office, which I have just recently put together in the last month. I am looking to start a podcast because about 1.5 years ago, I hired a real high-priced marketing consultant who said, Kent, your books are really good, but nobody knows where to find you. And If people are going to buy your books, they're going to want to be able to listen to you. And so it's my intention starting in June to start my own podcast. Hopefully this works. This is my first attempt to go live, so I have no idea how this is going to go. But I just thought, well, like I tell my students, the only way you can do something is to start doing it. So thank you for listening, maybe to my first live stream. And I hope to be talking to you a lot more in the future. Thanks so much.